on the side of QG.
Someone else needs to be assigned across from this LeBlanc to stop him.
Or QG need to make something else happen now that most of that money is being tied up towards the top side of the map. But at the moment, WE have the inside track on everywhere. Look at all of this vision available for this squad. In fact, it's all over the place. Pekko's going to get dove.
But they're completely dictating the tempo of the game. The reason why they're not consolidating their resources is because QG's composition thrives in the 5v5, in the flanking ability. So why fight like that?
Well, it's a really good point. Pulverize is going to knock up 957, who's tanked the turret for about 15 years right now. V is in so much trouble as Mystic wants a true shot barrage more. Does still have the ultimate running, so will survive for now. As Uzi, you had no right surviving that. That is single-digit health that he survived on. And QG just pressured off this turret.
Swift's like, my turn, boys. Meanwhile, in the top lane, the damage that Qiao has done, finally coming to a head, takes an outer tower for his troubles.
And you're right. I mean, what are they going to do?
It's brilliant. Again, it's a 5v5 composition from QG. Never group up as 5. You have this massive advantage in that right now, not even the tank. Now he might be able to because he has the Spirit Visage, but the tank couldn't even safely stand across from the LeBlanc. No one can lane assignment him. Yep. So if she is going to find these easy 1v1s as we take the replay at it, or QG are going to send multiple resources to deal with him, then it's just going to mean a free objective across map for Team WE.
Did you see Qiao do the distort flash there as well?
Yep.
Oh, God. Repugnantly beautiful.
A truculent run on him.
Most certainly was, but Dragon is going to be taken down here by WE. They're still looking for the fight on the side of QG, though, as there's the culling out of Uzi. Mystic, not a lot of mana. WE grab the Dragon, though, and they'll get out.
Great disengage right there. Again, the power and disengage of Ezreal.
No.
It's not worth it.
See you later. Oh, Swift actually dodges out of the way of the, I believe, Mimic Distortion there.
But
so
he also has Lamb's Respite. And jumping, snipe.
Yeah, another one comes down, Swift. Nimbly avoids it, using the I'm gonna walk tactic.
Look at Qiao, just on the hunt.
Oh, V. Now trying to do a Qiao. Does have a Spirit Visage, like you were talking about, so Qiao probably not going to be able to kill him. But that is Luden's Echo and an extra needlessly large rod picked up by this guy, so anybody else will definitely die. Uzi actually going to be able to secure that blue buff. And you can see QG had that early lead. But it's all about WE after that last team fight. And they've just been able to grab more and more and more. We're about 9 minutes away from the WE time, that 35 minutes, the magic moment.
The big thing right now is that WE's easiest objective to contest on the map is actually going to be the inner mid tower. Because remember, it's a siege composition, and at some point when you're attempting to siege into the base, it actually gets very scary for this comp despite how far ahead they are, because again, that's when QG can look for those very easy teleport flanks, get the Maokai behind enemy lines, and just try to run them over. So I actually feel like pressure is on for Team WE to make a massive pick here, like this one, and then translate that into Baron pressure.
Well, Death Ray is going to come down. GA is going to eat a Chaos Storm as Pekko just flashes for what looks like no reason.
He's trying to confuse him with the distortion, or the clone. But good job on Swift.
Save some time there. Make sure Swift can get in there. Take that one down. WE, though, in the meantime, they pulled 2 down towards the bottom side of the map. And that is going to spell Baron here for WE. Really good heads-up play as more. He's going to poke his head in, sees 4 members in the Baron pit and says, heck no, I ain't doing nothing about that.
Yeah, and the big issue is the fact that it was Swift that gets the cleanup kill on LeBlanc, like you said, pulls them across map, means that they're not able to get in position to stop. But this is what I was talking about. Sieging was a little bit too dangerous for Team WE at this point on the map, just because you're either sieging mid-tower, easy flanks there, or you're sieging into QG's base, even easier flanks there. So they look for the pick, and they translate that into Baron.
And it's just purely strategic-minded thinking here from WE as well.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Qiao's down there for a reason. That wasn't him getting picked off. He's like, well, if someone comes in and tries to answer this kill, it was still a 1-for-1. They try and answer this, we just take Baron, and they were already on it. WE acting like a unit right now, and this is what we saw. Games 3 and 4 especially yesterday against RNG, a team that was also playing phenomenally well, especially in the first couple of games. This team is no slouch, and WE have stepped up massively towards the end of this season. If they were to take down this series, it's a well-deserved victory for a team that has come so far.
Yep, made some pretty big roster adjustments in their off-season. And in the face of all of these star Koreans being picked up by other organizations, Team WE seemed to get the short end of the stick, but proving with results that that wasn't the case.
Yeah, and actually, GA's looking for a Leandri's Torment. Or just wants immediate magic penetration.
Well, the thing is again, he can pretty much kill anyone on QG's side except for the Maokai. So the magic penetration is going to help him at least chip away at that tree a little bit more. And if
Not
he
to
gets
mention Leandri's, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, and if he gets the Leandri's, then it even is kind of double duty against Maokai.
Even better news story. He's got a lot of health. As Uzi was coming down, but 957. Yeah, nah, he ain't going to be pushed out of that lane, and he can just run away. Just some giggles coming in now for WE.
But it's just so patient, you know? Don't force anything. Just let Qiao continue to get these leads, pull multiple resources, and take other objectives on the map. This has just been such a clinical and clean game from Team WE.
It certainly is, and Condi is going to be able to take down a turret there towards the mid lane. Swift as well. End of the line is going to be dodged. Xie just jumps over the top. Uzi was the target. The distortion is going to get him back out. Going to just wait the, like, what, 4 seconds for his ultimate to be back off cooldown, says Max saltily. And V doing his very best to try and defend down here. WE seem to be everywhere on this map. No stun to come through from the Cosmic Binding as V is just taking so much damage in form of chip here under the turret. Mystic is just a big deal.
Making use of that magical journey. Here we go.
Yeah, Xie actually jumping in over the top. He does get, oh my goodness, shut down immediately. Swift is going to fall as well, though. V is going to try and teleport in for the flank. Moore's going to die, though, and they've just still got so much damage. He's like, and I'm here. Oh, wait. Oh, crap. Sorry, guys. And now he's just going to run away. Maokai, you're adorable, but that is a magical journey of death heading towards you. He flashes out of the way, but there's the wall bang. 957 is going to be able to lock down the Maokai. And the adorable kitty's going to get taken here. Zero. That was an optimistic move, as Uzi is able to get a lot of damage down on top of him. But Peko now trying to make his way over. Not going to be able to take down Mystic. The Chaos Storm just going to sit there spinning unhappily. And that is only Uzi left alive.
And that's the brilliance of Team W. We call them B-tier players, but S-tier team. The fact that they saw that the TP was going to be coming in, and they immediately knew that we have to quickly burst out the majority of QG's team. They immediately rushed towards Uzi and friend, kill more.
My God.
And then when Maokai shows up, there's nothing to fight for.
Just done.
Just
and Magical
done.
Journey gets them out. I just swear, this team, with Zero stepping up the way he is, I feel like everyone just gets better. I think that is like the beauty of a team with a star support player. Just makes everyone else look incredible.
Both of these teams have the identity that they're supposed to be like the best teamwork teams.
Yeah.
Now, Doinby is a big piece missing from QG's teamwork, and when they're firing on all cylinders and rolling together. But Team WE, I mean, when they're together, when Zero's leading them, when they have Magical Journey, they look unstoppable.
They are on a Magical Journey together. And it looked very different when WE were denied that. That being said, you know, he did have a great Janna performance. Almost managed to turn that one around in the final game there as well against RNG. Unfortunately, the comfort picks, the power from this RNG roster was enough to get them past, and the early game pressure was translated into a victory in game number 5. But can't stop singing the praises here of WE. Looked a lot better.
It's an excellent time to be a WE fan again.
Yeah. I'm ready to hop back on the bandwagon. I thought that as soon as Aluka was gone...
That was it for you? That's where you decided to eject?
Yep. My fandom was done. But now...
He's like, Salme? No, I can recover from that one. Aluka? I'm okay. And then Luke leaves. He's like, no, that was too much. Wei Xiao's retirement.
No one's going to be doing like backwards crescendos. It's just going to be awful. No train drivers. There's a new Scion skin out. Like, where is he?
Conan's not on the roster anymore? No, this is...
No Tibbers running rampant. Oh, God, Conan.
I am actually a fan of Conan, so you better watch it.
No, just, you know, there's just been so many names. So many names. Xie is going to jump over there, using his distortion just to try and get some chips on that pink ward. Culling comes down one more time here as Xie is positioning himself pretty expertly. Oh, actually takes a little bit of poke damage. But QG now just dealing with that mid lane that's been broken open. Now, the floor is open for this siege. A minute left on the Baron. We'll see whether WE actually peel off to try and take that objective down. Oh, God, Swift. Just doesn't care about Lamps Respite either.
Just continuing this chip damage. Meanwhile, 957 in the top lane is looking to apply pressure towards the last standing tower.
Yeah, and it's also just really dangerous, the fact that the mid lane inhibitor was the one that broke, because now it's just too hard to defend multiple fronts here with the super creeps coming in. V actually going to take damage here from 957, and Qiao going to help out. My god, the tree is burning to death, as Mystic has been ignited as well, but V is going to fall. It's just the extra damage available here from this LeBlanc with the death cap completed now as well. Magical Journey gets 0 out as Moore looking for a headbutt pulverize, but Condi is going to turn this one around. The ultimate comes out as Tempered Fate is going to lock up both Peko and Moore. Uzi, an interesting use of the culling, and there's the knock up from 957. Massive distortion damage does eliminate the cow as Condi's just going to flash into it. Peko going to get smacked in the head by the shotgun, and WE are looking to try and end this game. The inhibitor's going to fall down. I have a feeling that they're not going to waste any more time either. Nexus turret's falling here as 3 are dead on Qiaogu's side. And WE 5 men strong. That is another one for Qiao. The mid lane are smashing faces right now on this LeBlanc. And WE are out with something to prove despite the early game prowess of QG.
And this is the dominant force that we expect from Team WE's teamwork. When they're all together, when they're moving cohesively as a unit, they can keep up with the best of them. They took RNG to 5 games, and they come out swinging against the likes of QG in this 3rd place match.
Yeah, really beautiful to see. And WE just look unfazed by a lot of problems that happen in the early stages of the game. And we see a lot of teams have like the early game all mapped out. They understand exactly what to do. Of course, you can practice early games very, very effectively. But when it comes to something like, you know, mid-game shot calling and sort of making sure that you have those strategic decisions down, that is all on the fly. That is all about shot calling. And I have a feeling like Zero stepping up, like a lot of these players that are so cerebral on this WE lineup, they're the ones that are really impressing me at the moment.
No, I completely agree. It was definitely a very controlled and methodical game from Team WE almost the entire way through. Big props to Qiao, knowing that they had the isolated lane matchup in the 1v1. They got him the advantage, and then just using that advantage on every lane to continue to pull QG around so that they never got their 5v5, so that they continue to expand leads and then making an insurmountable gold lead.
And it was this fight. From here on, WE never let the pressure drop once in this match, and despite the fact that QG did get things done early on, there was a whiffed collateral damage, but look at it, QG now on the aggressive, but successful disengage, then the re-engage comes in, Tempered Fate dodge, but who cares, because look at that cosmic binding onto both of the carries.
And likewise, the other big issue is that look at V's mana bar for the entirety of this team fight. Yes, that Maokai is full health, but he's unable to really assist his team in any sort of way with his abilities.
It's just a body, basically, and a body that is inevitably going to fall down. So congratulations to WE, but this is a best-of-5 series, and we'll see whether it is going to be turned around now by QG, because they did look like they still had some plans in the early game, but unfortunately it all seemed to fall apart after that one fight.
And I want to talk about the lane swap a little bit, because I think that was kind of a big factor there to Team WE's success and also QG's downfall. So it was a nice decision that Uzi gets an isolated lane, like he just gets to farm. We know that Uzi can perform in either standard lanes or a lane swap quite effectively, but the fact is that Mystic and Zero are so key, like you said, to Team WE's success, Zero in particular on that Bard, that I feel like they really need to prioritize a stronger 2v2 for Uzi and Moore, make sure that they get that standard matchup, and try to put Zero and Mystic into the ground. We know that Uzi has the ability there, but QG need to be more diligent on their level 1 warning to make sure that they get that. Yeah,
and despite the fact that Uzi was able to farm very effectively, it just wasn't necessarily the way they were able to carry out the game. But ladies and gentlemen, still lots more games to come in this best-of-5 series, and we'll see whether QG are going to be able to fight back in game number 2. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our English broadcast of the Chinese LPL. This is the third place match, the best of 5 series between WE and QG, and the MVP for game number 1 was definitely Qiao. The man's LeBlanc was ludicrous.
We're all shocked.
So shocked.
No.
Poor.
Definitely worth it. I mean, I think he was 5-0-1 fairly early on in that game, and then just used that advantage to pull QG around the map. The fact of the matter is that Maokai couldn't itemize into MR initially. He built his Sunfire first, and so no one, not even the tank, could line up across from that LeBlanc. There was kill pressure on any member, and he just used that to continue to abuse anyone who walked across from him and take free objectives. Yeah,
and WE identifying the fact that QG wanted to teamfight and just never let them do it. It was just flat out split pushing the whole time. Despite the fact that there was no teleport, it didn't matter because they just had so much control. And here's Qiao. That was the solo kill onto Pekko. This is the solo kill onto Pekko with the flash distortion that looked so beautiful.
I think we're also going to see another solo kill onto Pekko.
Here's the solo kill onto Pekko.
I'm starting to see a trend here, though. I feel like there may have been an issue for Pekko into the draft phase for QG. Naturally, the AD carry, not a mid laner coming into this. Both Ezreal and Corki were unavailable for him, which would typically be our assumed go-tos for an AD carry playing a mid lane position. Of course, the Corki was banned. The Ezreal was picked away. And you have to think, the priority pick on blue side for Lucian, yes, Uzi is going to be your star and key player. He's a phenomenal Lucian player, but is that necessarily what they should be doing, or should they be prioritizing maybe Pekko's fragile champion pool?
Yeah, well, we actually don't know anything about Pekko's champion pool just because the man hasn't really been playing in the mid lane. Of course, we did hear, I mean, there were whispers of the fact that he has been playing a little bit of the old Victor on, Korean solo queue, something like that. But who knows what's going on as far as mid laners for this guy because he's an AD carry player. And it's just really, really hard to exactly understand what's going to be going on. The question I really have, though, is if he picks either Corki or Ezreal, how does that deal with a LeBlanc anyway? Do they have to ban it now?
I don't think they'll ban the LeBlanc. I mean, they could. But I think the Bard is a larger issue for them.
Yeah,
I'd like to see Zero paid some respect here in draft phase, but last time around it was 3 mid lane bans.
Well, QG now have to get rid of Ryze. Probably Karma. No, Frostgreen hasn't written it down just yet.
I'm writing it now.
All right, there it is.
I think it's going to be Bard, though. I think it's going to be Karma Bard.
Oh, look at you. You've done it.
Yep.
Okay, so Bard is going to be banned. Definitely a good idea. Zero has, of course, his Janna that he does like to go back to. We'll see whether they are going to build a comp around that one. There's no real change on the side of WE. So they are going to take away the Nidalee as the final one. And Lysandra actually going to be banned away from 957. A heck of a lot of respect given as the Karma has now been left up. So Moore could actually pick it there towards the bottom side of the map if they want to grab it second rotation. Not sure whether WE will prioritize the Karma all that high, but we'll have to see. So there are still a heck of a lot of things here available. And Kindred for Condi.
Reminder that the last priority pick for Team WE is going to be between that Poppy and that Graves. So we do see that the Graves is being hovered now. Yep. No surprises.
Yeah, pretty standard stuff here. Of course, the Condi played fantastically on that Graves, and there's the fact that the champion has just been so consistent. I mean, you've spoken about Condi being consistent, but Graves as well. I mean, we've seen him in all different sort of early game scenarios. Still managed to come up trumps when you hit that mid game. The Warrior enchantment, the fact that you don't have to rely on getting those stacks or anything like that, the fact that you're not relying on skill shots landing or anything to do with your team comp apart from maybe a little bit of CC, still beautiful to see. And of course, all of that AoE damage. I just think that Graves is the champion to look out for in the jungle at the moment.
There's also the red side Graves, what's what I'm looking for, jungle pathing available. Level 3 gank is very strong on him from red side in particular. Blue side, it's more about just heavy farming Graves, and that's the other thing is the flexibility of that champion to look for a very heavy farm style, to look for a gank style, which is something that we see trending through kind of all of the top tier junglers, Kindred, Nidalee, and Graves. But just I think he's got a bit more kill pressure early on. Because, again, it's not necessarily so dependent on that skill shot like the spear.
Yeah, and if we're talking about sort of ideal second-round picks here as well for QG, as we are going to hop back into Champion Select, they are hovering the Lucian and the Maokai at the moment. No real changes here as, of course, Graves was locked in. And that's actually going to be taken away here. So Qiao thinking that they had the right idea in the last match, and we'll see what they augment this with and whether they're going to save that last pick for Pekko in the mid lane as well, and whether he can actually neutralize that lane given the sort of, I guess, counterpick potential that he does now have.
The counterpick makes sense if you have such a massive champion pool like the one that Qiao has.
Yeah.
But again, without much information on what Peko has available to him. I just feel like they need to, like, don't prioritize Lucian. Uzi can play anything. And the Lucian wasn't good enough in game 1 to bypass Peko's weaknesses. I feel like they're focusing on the wrong weakness.
Yeah, it's a very good point. The GA now hovering the Ezreal one more time. Condi going to grab the Alistar here for 0 as well. So taking away Moore's champion of last game. He can go back to his Braum. Definitely Alistar Braum being his champions of choice in general. But we'll see whether he decides to pick up something like the Karma, because it has been hovered right now. Of course, often banned away from WE, and they didn't snap it up in the second round. See.
I like Braum better just because Ezreal's already shown his face as well as Graves. He's going to offer a lot more counter potential in terms of denying more damage.
And it is going to be the Kindred locked in here for Swift, so going to take himself into the Graves matchup one more time. We'll see whether he's going to be better at it this time around.
Get stronger earlier, I think, is the primary issue.
Well, counterpick is now going to be available here for Peko, and we'll see what WE do to round out this lineup as Mystic and Zero do already have their champions there. It's all about 957 and Xie. What do they want to pick up? Is it going to be sort of the flexible comp, which could actually come in here if they wanted to lock in Echo Poppy? Do something weird like that. They did do that in the final game against RNG. To no avail, unfortunately, but it was a cute idea. Spawn liked the comp a lot.
I like this comp a lot. I like Azir as kind of an answer towards an enemy Kindred. We talk about the respite and swipe.
You feel so happy that you use it.
Naturally, that's when Kindred lays down Lamb's Respite, and then Emperor's Divide comes in and pushes you all off of it, except for your team. So you get the only benefit, use that champion against you. I do want to make note, though, that picking Azir into Maokai, sometimes not the greatest idea. Again, Maokai is going to thrive against a lot of splash damage, or kind of AoE damage, using his Vengeful Maelstrom.
Yeah. Actually, pretty optimistic decision here from Xie. But of course, if you do manage to use that Emperor's Divide to sweep the Maokai out, possibly get some extra damage there towards the rest of the members remaining on your side.
That is a Lucian mid lane.
Oh my god. See? What did I tell you in game 1? Very flexible here, as Peko has decided to pick that one up. And look, AD carries have historically done okay. The likes of Ezreal into Azir was something that we had seen in the past. I say, you know, going back quite a while to when, you know, the initial rise of the Emperor of Shurima. But he will have a lot of early game power, theoretically.
Yeah,
you know,
he's going to have a lot of early trading potential, probably one of the few champions that will be able to trade with Azir early on in the lane phase. The nice thing about Azir, or Lucian into Azir, is how he's going to use his Relentless Pursuit. So we talk about all this time. Early levels, Azir, he needs to have you at arm's length. And he'll send out his Sand Soldier, and he'll try to get a Thunderlord's proc onto you. But if you Relentless Pursuit underneath that Sand Soldier, he has nothing. He can't do anything to stop you. And Lucian, with your double tap passive, can really punish that lane matchup. So watch for kind of a level 2. I don't want to call it an all-in, but watch for a level 2, like, I'm asserting my dominance right now. And
also watch for Peko to be a little bit more, I mean, aggressive in this lane as well, now that he has a heck of a lot more comfort on this champion as well. I mean, this guy is an AD carry, now playing an AD carry in the mid lane. And look, Moore often spent a lot of time out of Peko's lane. So the man understands what to do when he's alone. So, you know, 1v2 situations, because he will probably be up against Condi a fair bit of the time as well, are not something that he's really had too much of a problem with.
The issue comes later on into lane phase, when Azir is just going to be free wave clear and it turns into a farm lane, and just what Azir is going to offer a team versus what Lucian is going to offer a team, you know, if Peko is able to get ahead. And kind of snowball lead, stay ahead of the clock, or if it's just going to become a neutralized lane, Azir is going to have far superior, more consistent wave clear, more consistent AoE damage, more utility in terms of the Sun Turret, of the Emperor's Divide, and all of the tools that he's going to offer a team collectively versus Lucian.
Yeah, there's also the fact that they have a heck of a lot of AD damage and not a lot of magic on the side of QG's roster as well. So, I mean, itemization here for the tanks of WE is going to be pretty easy. And look, when it's a Poppy who can freely build Sunfire, Cape, Iceborne, Gauntlet, who's going to kill her?
No, completely agree.
Basically no one here, as we are onto the Rift, ladies and gentlemen, for game number 2 between QG and WE. Xie and Peko are going to at least face off here for the moment. It is going to be a Doran's Blade start. Nothing fancy out of Peko. I thought Corrupting Potion could potentially be a thing, as he does like shooting his opponent quite a lot. but deciding that he just wants to grab a Doran's Blade, feeling the comfort once again as Moore is going to land the Winter's Bite here onto Mystic. He may need to level up the Arcane Shift here as the stun is going to come through. Boomerang comes down as well. The exhaust is there. Heal has to be popped. Has to use the flash as well, as I believe he'd already skilled up the Mystic shot. Bad news bears there for Mystic. Both summoner spells very early.
Yeah, and he didn't need to use both summoner spells. Thought that he could get out, but the Sivir passive doing quite a bit of work there to make sure that the concussive blows was procced off of Winter's Bite. But he could have just initially flashed away and conserved his heal.
Yeah, or like initially queued up the Arcane Shift, gone over the wall. And
He
said,
had
"See you later."
Q to check the brush when walking in.
Yeah. Well, 957 was walking on a ward.
This is what we talked about at the top of the analyst desk, however, is QG being more proactive with their level 1 wards, making sure that Uzi is getting that matchup that he wants.
Well, I mean, this is a pretty aggressive way to do it here as Condi and 957 lose the little Krug. Not going to be able to pick up the big one as it resets, but Moore's just going to continue to be frustrating, just trying to deny this one as best he can. That Krug going to help him out in this 2v2, pseudo 2v2, as he's borrowed a teammate. Condi able to throw some shotgun pellets into Moore, but he's going to be A-okay for now. Just being frustrating as the smite does get used. Condi going to lock that one down, and Moore just going to continue rotating through.
Yeah, continuing to chase them around the map. Meanwhile, the lane swap has been initiated. Key difference, though, is that Mystic will be splitting experience with Zero up there, Ezreal and Alistar sharing the lane, versus Uzi, who's getting so much solo EXP.
Yeah, most certainly is. It is going to be the red falling down, but Moore still trying to get the work done. Oh, that was actually only the Q-Bolt, so not going to actually get the passive. Concussive blow is not going to go off onto Condi, and successfully grabs his jungle, but how much time has been bought here as Swift actually fighting the Graves. Dancing forward once again, the red buff doing work. Wolf there at the same time, and Condi has to flash. Such a power play here from QG early on.
Yeah, Moore stepping up massive, buying enough time for Swift to complete his red buff and then walk across map to join him, bullying Condi out of the Raptors and forcing Graves back. We'll see if they continue to contest more camps.
Yeah, GA as well. I mean, there's the trading potential of Pekka, who's already used his potion. GA has used both of his now as well, and they've worn off. So a lot of trading available from this Lucian.
And notice how he's posturing with his Sand Soldiers. That last one that went up from Qiao was actually right next to his ear, so there's no movement or space underneath, and that's what we were talking about. When the Sand Soldier goes up, Relentless Pursuit underneath, the gank comes in from the side, immediately forces the flash. But before, Qiao was like Sand Soldier right next to him. I dare you.
Yeah, and he'd actually already used his exhaust as well. So Pekka really been playing with fire here.
The teleport Lucian.
I didn't notice that.
I'm trying not to.
I wonder whether he's got any AP. This should, you know, Rusty should be here. The AP Lucian enthusiast.
But meanwhile, across map, WE will pick up this top tier tower. Looks like they're going to feed the experience and CS into 957. Although this is actually something that Mystic does quite a bit, is he picks up and shares the gold on the tower when he's particularly playing Ezreal to help bypass some of Ezreal's power trough in terms of his itemization and his initial back.
Does it with Sivir as well, actually. Does like to just pick up a little bit of that early gold, and you can see actually falling behind in that farm because Uzi's had so much time on his own, the rest of QG just wandering around, trying to put pressure onto GA. They are going to be able to grab this turret. You can see Uzi not going to be able to grab any of the experience from it, and actually, in fact, just letting it stay up.
Stiff Breeze will take that tower down.
Real interesting play there, though. Normally you'd want that extra gold on that back, right?
Yep.
Would have been a possible extra longsword there potentially for Uzi.
It does allow Uzi to continue to farm the lane, however. And we do see that Mystic is in his power trough because he just has his tier boots and Doran's available, whereas Uzi has longsword, Cole, and Doran's blade. So perhaps keeping the tower up in terms of trying to elongate the lane phase, give Uzi a bit more 2v2 against a tier Ezreal.
It is definitely an unorthodox way to get the standard lanes, but does entirely achieve what you were saying was going to be what QG were looking for here this game. Like it a lot. Mystic, however, just going to shove the lane into him. Uzi just going to pick these ones up underneath the turret. We'll see how it eventuates as we move forward.
Yep, Moore doing a good job setting up the creeps for Uzi there. Making sure to tag the back caster creeps once, so the tower will take them down for an easy last hit.
Oh, beautiful.
And I'm going to explain that on cast because you don't know how many times in solo queue my support doesn't do that for me. Remember, folks, it's 2 hits on the melee minions with the tower, then auto attack. Support hit, tower hit on backcaster.
It's the people that get too enthusiastic and start doing it to the melee minions as well.
No,
It gets
please
really
don't.
frustrating. It's like, I understand what you're trying to do, man, but it's not working. That's not how this one goes.
I understand that you're trying to help me, but you're just making me sad.
Yeah, he just makes things worse. As Peko takes a lot of damage here.
He has
GA,
to go
though,
all in.
He is going to answer.
Oh, he's lost.
Yeah, he looks for it here as Swift is going to dance his way over. Yeah, gets over the wall, is able to pick up the kill. Nicely done from Swift. Good positioning, and GA a little bit over-aggressive as there's the flash from V. But you're right, I don't think GA had much of an option there.
And Swift had to come in to assist him there because we saw that Lucian lost the positioning there, had to force the all-in. But like I said, Mystic just a little bit too far forward if he had just disengaged.
Yeah, a little bit sad. Uzi there actually fighting both members of WE under that turret. Doing so quite nicely as well as V tries to pick up this wave. Swift is going to come over and he might actually be able to grab himself a freeze here. Oh my god, he does.
Yep.
Nicely played here by the top laner from QG.
So again, reminder that 957 and Conti are both up here because they're trying to reset this wave by getting it underneath the tower. But a good response from Swift, not only on the mid lane, but then immediately to rotate towards the top lane to make sure that the cannon creep cannot get underneath tower aggro, which means that V has a very deep freeze on 957's Poppy.
And I'm not even sure whether it is going to freeze, but he will be able to build a gigantic wave heading towards that turret. So if QG are able to take down the bottom outer turret, and then switch that top lane, that bottom lane towards the top side, could be pretty cute. They are able to get that one working, but like you said, probably wanting to elongate this lane phase as much as possible. As you can see Uzi and Moore still battling here, but Moore in a whole host of trouble. Mystic actually getting flash forward using that arcane shift, and there's the last auto attack after the flash, and Moore, unfortunately, unable to make that one work. Zero actually looking for this. There's the flash forward. Does have the last auto as Uzi's actually trying to make this a 1-for-2. He is going to come in there as the teleport is a little bit earlier there from Peko. 957. Now he's going to get the flash, but doesn't quite get the stun against the wall. Sand Soldier going to come over the top, and GA going to lock down the kills. Now Peko 1 versus 3, but does have a lot of damage. Serrated Dirk actually picked up. That is going to be his mid lane adaptation, so a lot of early game power. And in comes Swift. Condi now maybe overextended here as Peko. Lots of damage with that piercing light. QG stave it off. It's a 1-for-1.
I do want to talk about
1-for-2.
Uzi's positioning and his skill shot usage as he fought that. So something that's really fun to do as Sivir is anytime, and Uzi and Imp will both do this, anytime your enemy is against a wall, you immediately throw the boomerang because they can only dodge one direction. And the skill shot is so wide that chances are it automatically means that you're going to hit at least one way, most of the time back again. Which is why you saw Mystic immediately burn the heal and try to reposition himself with the movement speed to dodge the heal.
Yeah, not to mention the fact that Uzi can then readjust it on its way back using any one of his summoner spells, but played that one very nicely, especially early game on a Sivir, which is quite difficult to do because you don't have the fancy footwork moves like a Relentless Pursuit or an Arcane Shift.
Oh, it's just why I love Purple Sivir in that 2v2 bottom lane because you have that massive curved wall to play against, and as soon as Mystic stood against it, you knew he was like, crap.
Yeah. You have activated my trap card. Or something like that. As Uzi into the mid lane now, he does like to do this, rotates around, does have a heck of a lot of wave clear, so he's going to be able to answer GA here towards the middle of the map. And Mystic now shoving towards the top side. True Shot Barrage is going to get this minion wave towards the turret. V now with full health, we'll see whether he actually is able to hold on to it. He's going to try, and they're not going to break this one. So V just getting fed a whole bunch of farm.
Yep, he's got quite a significant CS advantage over 957, which is why 957 was attempting to make the play into the bottom lane. So we talked about how Condi and 957 were unable to break the initial hold from V.
Yeah.
But it does open up space for Team WE to look towards this Rift Herald. So we'll see who picks it up, if it's going to be Condi or Mystic. I actually assume it will be the Ezreal.
Well, he is here. Essence Blocks there doing some work trying to allow them to grab it. The eye being closed multiple times, the end of the line is going to lock it down, and Condi going to pick it up actually. So yeah, wanting to extend his lead in the jungle. It's ahead by 1 creep right now.
Actually, I'm going to go ahead and agree with this. So it makes sense to me that Team W would give it to Condi as opposed to putting it on one of their members. And typically the difference between putting it on a jungler versus putting it on one of your laners is you know for sure that if a laner has it, they're going to be sieging something.
Yeah,
or they're going into the weaker lane to try to neutralize it. When the jungler has it, you can still siege, but it's also about empowering your clear speed.
Yep.
But Team WE are in a point where they want to consolidate farm. They're waiting for Azir and Ezreal to come online, so they don't necessarily need to be sieging right now, but farming.
You know, actually, Swift forced to use the flash there as 0 and 957 answering back very well. V does have the Twisted Advance available, but 5 members on the bottom side of the map here for WE. As the culling is going to fly through. Pekka cancels it embarrassingly, and there's the exhaust. Uses the Emperor's Divide there as well. Xie just seems to have control over Pekka right now. The last auto attack's going to do it. Xie, just capitalizing on a mistake from Pekka.
Yeah, just the over-aggression. And it wasn't necessarily the culling, it was the fact that the Relentless Pursuit had been used. Yeah. And then
if you could see the sadness in Prospero's eyes right now, ladies and gentlemen.
It was immediately, as soon as Xie saw the Relentless Pursuit was down, he was like, you're mine.
Yes, and we saw it in his play there as well. Casually walking up, manages to eye off the Emperor's Divide just like he has all the time in the world. And Pekka, he had flash.
Yeah, it was vicious.
It was.
That said, it will be a trade for outer towers. The top outer tower traded for the bottom.
Definitely a good news story. Swift was here to defend the mid-outer turret, which is definitely good news. Azir with any time is able to make short work of that, but it's now only 12 CS the lead here for Pekka, who was dominating that lane early. And Xie delivered the first kill and picks up the second one on his own. This Azir is going to be a problem. And
this is what we talked about. You know, Lucian's going to have some advantage early on in the lane phase, being able to get underneath the Sand Soldier, but now that Xie has kind of bypassed that, he's starting to run away with the lane phase, because Azir's just going to offer so much more.
He also just turned 2 daggers into a Nash's Tooth, so... Look, honestly, it's going to be really hard for Pekka to continue in this lane.
On the bright side, though, V is still maintaining his CS discrepancy over 957, 55 to 75.
Yeah.
Maokai has his distortion boots up and available, so QG could be looking for a position to find that TP flank. Dragon should be spawning, I believe, in the next like 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm going to say 2:45. Ah, damn it.
2 minutes.
I'm taking the timer next time.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I was like, my dragon senses are tingling. It should be soon.
Well, they were pretty close. What, 30 seconds?
I was 30. That's a lot.
I tried to guess the time before, and I was like 11 minutes off, and I'm like, wow, that was actually pretty good. So 30 seconds feels fantastic. Not the time of a dragon, just what time it was.
No, it's fine.
You're
good.
Yeah. All right,
there we go.
Culling going to be used one more time here as Pekka is actually going to follow Xie around. He does use the Sand Glide, gets himself out, but he will need to back. And Pekka says, yeah, you may have slowly killed me once, but it will not happen again.
I didn't use my Relentless Pursuit carelessly this time.
Exactly.
The day is mine.
Well, 957 dodges one part of the boomerang, but not the second, but does have his buckler to help him out. You can see Condi's going to make his way over, though, and more. Positioned very aggressively right now, has to move out of the way. Heroic Charge now on cooldown, as Uzi just going to play a little bit more aggro against 957. How does he crit? Like, that was silly. That was 20% crit, Uzi. That's not fair.
Get the crit. Look at the, not the arrogance, but the confidence of Uzi and Moore. That's a 2v2, but they don't care. They're like, yeah, we know Graves is up there. Come on, Graves.
Yeah, we're under the turret, man.
Let's fight.
They're ready to go. Is Xie actually positioning aggressively here one more time? WE just trying to bait this one in, seeing whether Pekka is going to go aggro, but doesn't have the mana, actually doesn't want to opt into it. He is going to be able to clear out these minions. WE maybe wasting a little bit of time now as Pekka gets the ward over the top, and there's the Sand Glide, flashes forward. Nice flash in answer there from Pekka. There's a Mystic Shot, he's going to go wide. Moore is going to pay a visit now as well, as Swift is going to come in. Trying to dance over the top. But he's not going to be able to get Wolf in range.
Yeah, the flash.
Yeah, there's the Glacial Fissure there as well, as Moore is trying to create something, but nothing to come out of it here. The disengage from WE, pretty effective.
Yeah, the Iceborne Gauntlet online for Mystic there, really helping out. So QG couldn't get underneath and continue that chase.
Well, you can see QG with a slight lead despite falling behind in the kills. Even turrets now as well, so it's just indicating the fact that the farm is working out far better here for this Chagu team. Yeah, make his way over, see whether he can just pick up some extras in this lane. But this is the first time we've seen Mystic without a CS lead at the early stages of the game for quite some time, as the ultimate comes out of 957, just says no Swift. This is not your time.
Bad.
Yeah.
He'll stay.
Yeah.
Dragon is now up and available. checking in quickly on itemization of the tanks, because I always find that kind of the most important coming into these team fights, whether their resistances are up and online. You do have the armor available for V, where actually pretty much the same across the board for both of them.
A bit of extra health in place of some mana here in favor of 957. Kindle Gem there for the CDR at the same time. But you're right, not a whole lot to write home about. It is going to be neutral objectives traded here. Qiao are going to be able to pick up the Dragon, grab their second of the game. Bit of extra turret damage going to be pretty good, but Rift Herald, let's see how it's going to be used here on the map for WE.
Looks like we're also going to attempt to trade inner turrets. QG collapsing onto the bottom side. They are bringing Swift, whereas meanwhile Team WE have Azir and Condi up in the top side.
Yeah, well, this inner turret is definitely going to fall down. You can see Mystic's actually trying to take down the outer turret in the mid lane as V is looking to defend here. GA has a lot of turret damage as well as Condi.
WE have a very small time frame where they can really execute on this, because certainly QG will be sending members back. Here comes Swift.
Yeah, Swift is going to make his way in, but not able to answer that one. The Rift Heralded minions doing a little bit too much work, but there are the pings going down as GA actually looking for V. The exhaust goes down as he tries to catch up, but just can't do it. Swift is going to make his way in. Emperor's Divide is actually going to get dodged by the Twisted Advance. GA with a rare misplay and is going to pay the price.
Far too aggressive right there, and now QG continuing the chase.
Yeah, Condi actually uses the collateral damage to create some distance, but I have a feeling this Graves is not long for the world. Uzi just throws a boomerang at him. And that will be QG, and now actually creating themselves a decent advantage. Teleport going to be used from Peko, denying any turret take in the mid lane. Just throwing out Lightslinger after Lightslinger, smacking these minions in the face, and we'll be able to extend his lead.
No reason for Qiao to do that. I think everyone can clearly back up and see that was probably the wrong play. I do want to point out the cute little Twisted Advance underneath the Emperor's Divide
really cool.
to lock up Azir, so cool interaction there. But super punishing. See if they're able to
bounce back.
I was going to say clean it up.
Well, GA, after his performance in game number 1, might need to just stop being quite as hero, as they would say.
Too hero.
Going a little bit hero, you're exactly right.
Over Maokai, of all people.
Yeah, and he's gone for his Karma here as well. As Swift is going to be discovered here by Zero. More can't quite get over the top there as the W was down there from 957. V is going to make his way in as well, but WE are collapsing really nicely. The culling is going to fly through from Peko as he's in a safe position, but Zero going to fail the flash. Still going to survive as Lamb's Fire comes in. Mystic on top of it now as well. Who's going to be able to pick up the kill? Peko. He's going to be able to grab it after that one wears off, and Swift survives. Uzi now hunting for members of WE, but thankfully for them, they only lose one. Fortunately, it's their AD carry.
Good collapse from QG there, getting their members, getting their damage in front of them. Kind of a questionable flash from Mystic. He flashed over to make sure that he was in the Lamb's Respite to try to make use of the heal, as opposed to just flashing over the back of the Dragon and trying to take his 50-50 of surviving.
Yeah, I have a feeling that, you know, was still going to die. Probably wanted to take down Swift at the same time, but of course...
I understand the mentality of trying to trade 1 for 1, but I feel like you could have made that gamble a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's also, you know, taking the aggressive option as opposed to the safe option, which is something that WE had prided themselves on in the last couple of series. It has been all about the smart play as opposed to the gambles. Sort of very, I like to say, un-LGD. LGD, of course, often gamblers on Summoner's Rift. Tend to just make it work as well because of their mechanical skill, but didn't pay off for them against Vici earlier on.
That said, we talked about how Team WE, you know, giving the Rift Herald over into Condi, they did use it to push down the the inner turret in the top lane, but they need to be consolidating farm onto their carries. So Azir is going to be a 3-item 80 carry. The Muramana is still not complete for Mystic, so at this point they really need to slow down the pace of the game, build up their itemization, and then try again. Right now, QG very strong. Yes, you're still looking for an Infinity Edge, preferably on Sivir, but Essence Reaver and Static Shiv now online.
Yeah.
Can augment past her power trough in the mid-game through speeding up everyone else, as it's happening in the mid lane.
Yeah, GA in a whole host of trouble. Zero's trying to peel for him there as the Empress Divide comes in. GA just going to get flashed on though by Swift, who picks up the kill, and Condi now running for the hills. Uzi with a nice auto attack reset is going to get the concussive blows, but Condi deceptively tanky right now as More in a whole host of trouble. Does use the Lamb's Respite though, and Swift able to get some damage across as Mystic throws out the True Shot Barrage. Fantastic spell shield from Uzi is going to keep him alive as Peko. So aggressive. V's able to pick it up with a twisted advance. And WE, they don't have the answers this time.
WE do not want to fight right now. That's literally what the point was just made, is that QG, they're ready to fight. They're online, despite the fact that Sivir doesn't have record optimization. She makes everyone else run fast. They want to fight. They want to smash heads. And Team WE didn't have the vision or the correct positioning to keep that from happening. So good job for QG pulling the trigger, and now they're looking towards Baron.
Yeah, V able to tank it up for days here as well, as Moore able to get a whole bunch of his health back. And if multiple AD carries can do anything, it's take down neutral objectives really quickly, but 957 wants to be able to try and get in here. Throws down the ultimate, gets rid of a couple of them.
Smite.
Definitely the smite there as Condi's going to come in, doing what he does best, which is steal Baron or just kill everyone. They get straight back on the Baron as Peko is actually trying to hang out over the top here. Swift has been able to make his way back over. But WE, they of course respawn. Now everyone battling for this Baron. Peko makes his way over as well. Qiao is going to be able to take down Peko. Massive damage here as WE cleaning up. They love the Baron fights and they're able to do it one more time. But the Baron is able to be picked up by QG despite the ace.
Okay, Baron is picked up so you get the global gold off of it, takes that objective off the map, but no Baron buff survives because of the ace coming out. 957 and Condi, the hero plays. Perhaps just saved the game for Team WE.
Damn right. And look, if Condi comes up anywhere, it's Baron pits. Make sure he is more than dead if you're going to start that objective.
Condi played it well, yes, and I completely agree with that point that he's repeatedly performed around Baron pit, but 957 knocks the smite, as well as I believe the tank out of the pit. I'm sure we'll get a replay of it. But they take the tower, they take the fight, now the dragon.
Yeah, so unable to grab the Baron objective. Of course, grab the tower, set up a sun turret, grab themselves their first dragon, which is quite important here. Slowing down QG. Third would have been very important for them as well because they like the movement speed. They want to get their tanks, their front line in there, of course, augmenting the extra movement speed from the Sivir as well. So, really nicely played by WE, and this is a much more even game. Under 4,000 gold now the lead. And WE, they wanted to get past this stage of the game. They're doing so nicely as the Boomerang is going to get eaten by 957. He says, I don't care.
I mean, they're effectively waiting on one more item out of Xie's Azir before truly coming online. See how QG work with this window of opportunity that they have. Because, like we said, despite the fact that they lost the Baron fight, don't have the Baron, they still very much have the gold lead as well as the pushing power.
Feeling good.
Feeling great.
And Infinity Edge almost there for Uzi as well. Xie going to eat a culling, saying, I'm really upset about this. Sand Soldier's going to eat through Peko, though answers the trade beautifully as there's a nice flash out of the way of the flash pulverize from Zero. I believe that was a pulverized flash, actually, that was flashed out of the way by Peko, so nice timing.
And again, what we mean, the difference is that you can flash during the animation windup of the pulverize.
Thanks very much for asking.
Yeah, it's super cool.
Back to you on the desk.
You can also do it with Lee Sin in his Dragon Rage kick.
You can, repositioning it as you would like.
It's pretty cool, actually.
That is probably the best one. As far as flashing before doing an ability is concerned, that is ideal. Of course, Xie showing us yesterday that you can also do it mid-distortion, which is disgusting.
Showed us that today, honey.
Sorry, yes. And by yesterday, I mean last game. It's all right.
What year is it?
1692. Xie. Back in the mid lane now, clearing out minions.
Aw, you just pulled a Rivington.
I did.
Dyrus in the mid lane. Farming creeps.
That's how we do. Let's play with playcasters. After we say something stupid, we just talk about something that's going on in the game. Easy peasy.
Looks at the screen. What's happening?
Yeah. We barely know, but we're doing the best we can. No.
Ah.
Mystic actually going aggressive here onto Moore. Zero's waiting around, but decides that the pink ward is a little bit more important, and Uzi is actually pushing here towards the bottom side of the map. QG actually dealing with all of the lanes at the moment. But the defensive vision is much better here for WE. And in fact, the vision has been something that WE has been in control of throughout this series.
I want to quickly touch on something, though, because Uzi has just now backed, and he's completed his Infinity Edge. So the CS difference, 212 to 289. We expect this out of Uzi, especially when he gets his hands on a champion like Sivir. He's very good at consolidating farm into his open and waiting arms. Sivir's online, though. That is the core build. That is the massive AoE ricochet crit damage.
And look, it's important that 957 has been able to pick up the Randuin's Omen. I mean, there's not a lot in his build that he has to build in, like as far as things like magic resist are concerned, because of course no magic damage deal is on the side of QG apart from V potentially. but it's going to be negligible considering the fact that he is a tank. So 957 is going to have a lot on his plate, and the Randuin's Omen, fantastic for the slow as well against Uzi. But more importantly, he just needs to be able to tank up this Sivir, keep her away from the rest of his team so that that Ricochet doesn't kill everyone ever.
Yep, 100% agree. It's probably one of the few times that Randuin's Omen is a cost-efficient item right now.
Yeah. Even the active hasn't been seeing as much use. Of course, Elises do like to go and repel in and slow people down.
Now he's stealing spawns points.
Haha. We've actually just been seeing it a lot. I don't know. Weird one. QSS, of course, probably what Uzi's looking for next. Could potentially be a Hex Drinker as well, considering the amount of consistent magic damage.
We've seen a lot of Ezreals doing this as well. The third item will be the Blade of the Rune King, completed for Mystic. He's one of the few Ezreals that actually really likes to stack up his passive fairly early into the team fights and really abuse the attack speed buff.
Yeah, weaving the spells.
Yep.
A sign of a very good Ezreal player. Of course, someone like Deft would be a perfect example. Wei Qiao, I believe, was pretty good at the champion.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it. As 957 MV, gonna slap each other.
Yeah, but I mean, I wouldn't really want to battle a Maokai because he's adorable.
Right now we're waiting for objectives. So QG, they want the big 5v5, they want the flanking teleport. And to do so, they either need to flank someone through the lanes, which is why they have very deep vision, or the attempted deep vision. But also, they also want those Baron and Dragon timers to lure you into a pit, into Fog of War, and then crush your hopes and dreams. Whereas Team WE right now are just like, we have 2 minutes. Yeah, whoa, keep your dreams alive. We've got now 53 seconds to just farm as much as possible, get really quick backs in, run in, lay down vision, and try to survive. Round 2.
Condi wants to go back to his favorite place on Earth.
His throne.
Yeah, the Baron. Condi, he's actually going to eat a culling though. GA going to share it a little bit. Only half the health of the Graves though. True Grit was stacked up there after he was doing battle with some creeps, so going to be able to tank it quite nicely, using his refillable potion in order to keep himself back alive. Of course, his Hunter's Potion. There's more. Oh, not going to find the Winter's Bite. But he's going to be able to scout out the enemy team. You can see WE actually grouping up quite nicely. Teleport at the ready for 957.
It's really important that they don't walk into Fog of War. That sounds really obvious, but the idea is that most of their damage right now is going to be Azir, and he needs to have his Sand Soldiers set up. So things like this, they should just give it away at this point, or attempt a slight steal, but there's no reason to walk into this 5v5.
Well, Unbreakable is actually going to block the True Shot Barrage. Somehow, it was sort of sideways, but I did like that it worked. And QG are going to be able to consolidate that one. Collateral damage was thrown out, but unable to find it either. So Condi loses out on that one. Yes, yeah, with an interesting maneuver. Gets himself over the wall.
Yeah, what if that fails?
Yeah.
What if he just messes it up and then he just ends up
headbutting the wall, I think is what happens. A lot of embarrassment. We giggle a bit, and then we move on, I think. Or he dies. And it'd be really,
That's
really
what I was
bad.
waiting for, because he threw himself one way and then he went back the other direction. What if he kept going? Just straight over the wall, right into...
It just keeps on that trajectory indefinitely. It's like, you screwed up, man. Head straight into the enemy fountain. That'd be bad. Don't want to punish people too much. As he is looking for the Zhonya's Hourglass as his third item, just to make sure he can, you know, Sandglide in there and then golden himself up, even more the golden chicken than he otherwise would be.
To make sure he can engage, which is actually quite important. Sometimes we'll see, I mean, it's not a rare or unique item on Azir, but sometimes we've even been seeing an earlier death cap, just because he's going to stand back and throw out his Sand Soldiers.
Yeah.
But the idea is he's so key to disrupting QG's composition and how it works, either pushing Sivir away or removing the Maokai or taking complete claim of the Lamb's Respite, that he needs the Hourglass because he has to be proactive with the Emperor's Divide. This is not a sit back and chip at you Azir. This is a, I need to get my face in there and make plays Azir.
Yeah, and it's actually really cool as well, because QG do have a lot of consistent damage on this roster, what with 380 carries, so being able to try and get that heavy-hitting punch first up in the fight, definitely a good idea. But you can see QG actually had quite a considerable lead. Not so much anymore as WE looking to try and take down Pekko. There's the headbutt. The Pulverize comes in as well, nicely timed. as he's trying to run away, but
nice.
nothing doing.
Just really beautiful CC chain from Zero to make sure that he didn't. Ooh, hold on.
Yeah, actually, there's the wallbang as well onto Swift. He will have to use the Lamb's Respite most likely. Actually dances out of the way, does still have it, and puts it down now. But he will be moving out of the way. The Sand Soldiers are going to be there, and 957 picks up another one. Massive picks all across the board as Uzi now fighting with WE. Flashes out of the way. Really good positioning here from the AD carry behind his tank line, but 957 hunting now for the Sivir. There's the wallbang. This Poppy's so big. My God, GA is going to knock away V. Now caught in the red pit is more. One more auto attack from GA is going to do it, and WE have torn this game in half. V now the last man standing. Condi kiting out of the way. How did this even happen?
Disaster for QG at every turn of the map. And frankly, QG just failed Uzi there. Uzi was in perfect positioning. He got behind his team. He saw that Swift was caught out. He saw that Pekka was caught out. He tried to make something happen, and his tank line left him to die. I mean, the fact that from mid lane, 957 gets to walk around and just find Uzi in the back line, they knew that that was coming. But Maokai just tunneled too hard.
Yeah, it's just like, hey guys, you be dead.
Thankfully, all this does is chip away at the gold difference between these two teams. They don't translate it into anything more, but QG cannot afford that type of reckless positioning this late in the game, especially against a team comp like WE, which is going to continue to scale in the hands of Qiao.
Not to mention the fact that he now has an extra blasting wand on top of the Zhonya's Hourglass that he just completed. If we're talking about item spikes, this Azir now with basically 3.5 full completed items that are so important for the champion. I mean, the Void stuff probably going to be great as well, but I mean, it's only a couple of more Malmortiuses and some Spectre's cows that he has to worry about as Pekka now has to deal with 957, who's just having the time of his life this game, kiting around the Lucian, just having the worst time ever. Mystic Shot is just going to flat out miss as Ezreal's there, but 957 says, look mate, I am so big, I literally care about no one on this map.
Just there for some moral support right there. Meanwhile, the rest of Team WE, again, not looking towards the Baron because they don't want to put QG in a 5v5 scenario, but continuing to attempt to siege and to pull QG around on this map, picking them out with superior shot calling. Yeah.
4-0-6 now for the top laner of WE. 4-1-4 as well for Condi, so just massive top half of the map scorelines here for WE, and we've spoken about a team that is so able to switch around where they have their points of power. This is their bottom lane not doing so well. I mean, 1-4-2, that is not Mystic's best performance on the Ezreal, but the slack's being picked up by the rest of WE.
Really on the back of Condi and Qiao again, who are going to be the primary enablers. Yes, Zero and Mystic tend to pick up on late games, but it's kind of like, it's that perfect baton pass. So Condi has it early game, throws it to Qiao, they get the snowball going, and it buys time for Zero and Mystic to build up their items and then just take over the late game, which despite Mystic and Zero's scoreline, they're actually doing really well in this late game.
They certainly are, but there's the twisted advance. QG trying to get in there. The Emperor's Divide comes down as the Culling's trying to do some work. WE actually softened up quite a lot right now, but Moore is basically dead. Beak still continuing to try and find this fight as Uzi. Very, very healthy. Qiao going to make his way out. It's a really nice spell shield from Uzi to try and keep this one up, but QG, they might just try and grab themselves this dragon in 20 seconds, but they're not able to find a kill.
Yeah, a little bit too close together for Team WE. Ate a lot of ricochet damage. Uzi very healthy, was doing a ton of crits to the backline, so need to spread these team fights out a little bit more in terms of just the surface area to make sure that they don't just get ravaged by W.
Yeah. I like that you use surface area, ladies and gentlemen. Keep that in mind if you have any biology tests. 50% of the answers will be that.
Surface area?
Surface area. The best. Condi?
He's going to go over the wall, and he's going to attempt to steal it with Smite, and then ult himself back over.
Nope. He's just going to take it as the teleport's coming in from QG. Swift has to use the Lamb's Respite, buying some time for the teleport here as V's made his way in. He's just going to immediately try and disengage those. Condi over the top, takes down Swift. Now Uzi has to deal with this. Graves who's just dashing on top of him. Massive damage comes in as V now just going to seclude himself from this fight. Qiao, gigantic Emperor's Divide's going to get rid of Uzi, and that is so much consistent damage dead. WE just orchestrating these team fights so wonderfully. And Moore is going to complete the ace. WE could go for Baron. They could go for the win. This team looks so good.
They're rotating towards the top lane where they have the massive creep wave, so death timers, super punishing from QG. I believe the latest one, or the earliest one, is going to be 33 seconds and 20 seconds on Swift and Moore, respectively.
And that's a Thornmail done here for 957 as well. There is no way that he's dying to anything. I don't even think a turret can scratch him, as this inhibitor is going to fall down. This most definitely is going to be game, as Zero's going to tank up the turret. Nexus turrets are falling here as well. All 5 members of WE bearing down on the second Nexus of this best-of-5 series. This third place looking definitely under fire from WE, and a fantastic play in this game number 2.
And reminder that QG actually have the superior record over the LPL regular season against Team WE. The first time that QG and WE faced, because they're both from Group A, the first time that we've seen the same group meet in this this playoff or gauntlet run so far, QG beat Team WE in Week 1 and then lost to WE in Week 2. But the first time they faced was a 2-0. The second time was a 2-1.
Yeah, and it's actually really interesting because it was the very first week of the LPL that QG first met up with WE, and then the very last one that they met up the second time around. So it just shows the evolution of WE here as well. The fact that they were a very, very new team. This was a team that had only just been put together, a whole lot of brand new players, 957 standing out like a sore thumb as one of these sort of fantastic guys that was relatively unknown moving in, sort of a solo queue top laner here from China, just playing his little heart out. Of course, that last game, I mean, I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't manage to pick up something like an MVP there. The Poppy was just phenomenal. So it's just really cool just to see the evolution of WE.
Yeah, in particular, that Baron play.
Oh, yeah.
We have to go back to that was really the swinging point for Team WE to get their foot back into this game, because QG were running away with that. What, a 4K gold lead? And suddenly Condi and 957 rock up to Baron and just punt 2 members, including the Smite, out of the pit. And more importantly, because they punted out the tank as well as the jungler, so denying that smite, although Swift was able to get back into position, find the correct smite, so good job on him. But it meant that the rest of QG were closer to the Baron and had to absorb so much splash damage, and it just wrecked them for the incoming team fight.
Yeah, it was really beautifully done, so nicely played by WE towards the end of that one. But QG do have a lot that they can take away from that one as far as positives are concerned, because Peko did much better on an AD carry there in the mid lane.
Did he, though?
Well, look, GA did manage to pick up a solo kill after a pretty unfortunate play using the Relentless Pursuit there from Peko, but he was ahead in farm the majority of the game, and that is definitely a good idea. But it just seems to be that WE are still not caring about fumbling the early game, and then coming back with superior team fighting and orchestration around the rest of the game.
Yeah, superior team fighting against the likes of QG.
Yeah, well, that's a really good point.
That's the thing to underline. But we talked about this as kind of like the baton. You know, Condi and Xie, they get it early, and they take full control. Condi's always going to have really aggressive jungle picks. They're prioritizing this every single time between both teams. And then Mystic and Zero are set up to take over late game.
Yeah, really beautifully done. But ladies and gentlemen, we are going to throw it to a short break. When we come back, it is going to be game number 3 and match point for WE in this third place match. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our English broadcast of the Chinese LPL. I'm Max Alice Anderson. I'm still joined by Indiana Frosker in black, and it's do or die time for QG. There is one more possible match to go here, as WE could close it out in the next one, but the reverse sweep is a possibility, and we'll see whether they can utilize their early game power and transition that into actually winning the game, because it's been WE falling behind early, as per usual, and then just team fighting like gods. And look, it's just so weird, the backward talk about, you know, QG losing team fights in the mid game.
Yeah, and you are correct that they are team fighting very well and technically are out team fighting QG, but I don't necessarily think that that's like how they're winning or the label that should go on to their winning, because Team WE are winning more so their intelligent decision making about when to fight and when not, more importantly when not to fight. That's actually probably like the much larger thing, because again, you think about when they took the Rift Herald and they decided to just trade objectives. I mean, QG very much want a team to come fight them at that point, but Team WE doing a fantastic job realizing that they didn't have the itemization, that they weren't going to win the fight, that at best it would be maybe like a 40-60 chance, and just stalling it out, continuing to farm, making sure that they get the proper items, and then executing off of their team composition. So again, it's not like they team fight really well, it's they understand exactly when not to team fight, which is why they're so special in a region like the LPL.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Ladies and gentlemen, as well, we did get word that Qiao was the one that was able to pick up the MVP for game number 2. The Azir play, of course, the solo kill against Peko in the mid lane would have been one of the highlights there, and his Emperor's Divide to really solidify the last game. Yeah, I mean, that was sort of what I was trying to do.
Oh, okay. My favorite part was when he was in the brush and he went this way and then he went that way.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty cool. I like to call that the Whaless maneuver, because he just likes to sand glide everywhere he can.
Now, let's be fair. Qiao did have a great performance, but again, he's competing against an AD carry who has role swapped into the mid position, and not that Qiao is not doing his job.
Yeah.
But Condi and 957 saved that game for Team WE with the Baron, not Baron Steel, but the Baron fight and the ace.
They most certainly did. Condi, of course, the god of the Baron pit.
The god.
Yeah, a complete
Shurima.
monster.
Hello? I don't know why that happened.
Well,
move on.
Qiao are going to ban Bard and the Rise.
Bard.
And Kindred actually going to be taken away here. Swift doesn't want to play it. He's just going to ban it away from himself, as they do want that Graves first pick by the looks of things. We'll see what WE do to adapt here, as the Corki and Lulu have been banned.
They have to ban Italy.
Yeah, or is it...
Or leave both of them open.
Well, of course, Nidalee can be banned. They will have the opportunity to go towards the Lissandra if they want to in the next round of picks, which is what has snuck through.
This is all about jungle right now. So if they ban the Nidalee, then it leaves priority pick for the Graves open, which then puts Condi at a disadvantage, especially against the likes of Sivir. Likes of Swift. Ban Sivir, Graves and Nidalee are open. You make sure that you're at least getting one.
Yeah, well, Condi will see what he's going to be able to get, as Nidalee is the one that's going to be picked up. Of course, 76% of the bans during the regular season were Nidalee against QG. So, of course, definitely a power pick for Swift.
Here comes the denial.
Yeah, so the Lucian denial a possibility here. Mystic has shown that he's a fantastic Lucian player, especially in the games that they were able to take yesterday. Lucian Janna, Lucian Bard. In fact, 100% win rate on Lucian in that last series. We have a look at the previous one. In fact, 0%, unfortunately. So, bit of a switcheroo, but definitely recently playing well on the champion.
Did you, like, check your sheet? You're like, and it was 0.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is unfortunate. But his Civil win rate and Ezreal was fantastic against VG. They are looking for the Poppy and the Lucian, though, this time around. So no sort of consideration there for the Lissandra. Wanting to leave that one open.
Poppy's just too key against the likes of Qiao. Again,
yeah.
Good team fights from both QG as well as Team WE, and Poppy's just going to give you more tools to continue to abuse that. Yeah,
really good point. But Peko going to waste no time. Locks in the Lissandra. V could be playing it there towards the top side of the map, but I have a feeling, based on just how keen he was, that Peko wants to really show himself on this mid lane control mage. The Victor wasn't too bad in the early stages of the game.
I think it's more so the priority to make sure that Qiao doesn't get his hands on that.
Yeah, well, Alistair once again for Qiao as well. This is sort of a big deal. Massive power picks here.
Okay, Graves and Karma.
I would love to see Karma.
It'll be the support. Doesn't have to be, though. Graves and Braum.
Well, they might just save Zero's pick until last, which would be very cute.
I got it on the second attempt.
Well, Braum currently hovered here from GA. They will probably save that mid lane pick up until the final one, but Graves makes a heck of a lot of sense, like you were saying. Condi happy to hop back on that one, and, you know, if you want a good lane, Braum Lucian. Pretty dang strong.
Yes, but we still don't know what AD carry Uzi will pick out.
Very good point.
Without the Sivir, he could still likely go for the Caitlyn or the Jhin.
Yeah.
Or
Vayne.
the Vayne.
Yeah. Will be the hover here, but of course, Alistair Vayne, back when Vayne was first released, was a fantastic lane. Knock him up, smack him into a wall.
Fun fact, I believe I saw this Reddit thread on the other day. They were like, Doublift is known for his Vayne play, but he actually has a really terrible win record on Vayne. Uzi is very much the same. Uzi is known for his Vayne
Thank
play.
you, 2015.
But his Vayne record is actually pretty not, I'm going to put it in the not good column.
Yeah, I attest to that. 27 seconds remaining, though,
I like
as Qiao
Jhin.
thinking about Jhin. Yeah, and more. Going for the Trundle for V, up on the top side of the map.
I really like Jhin with Trundle just because a pillar comes up and it pretty much gives you just free auto attacks.
Oh my god, he did it. Okay, Uzi's throwing the gauntlet.
Wow.
We're up to match point here against WE. Uzi's like, all right, boys. Let's settle in. Let's grab the Vayne and let's smack them around. It is going to be Maokai actually picked up into the Poppy. We've seen this matchup go one of two ways, so...
We've talked about, you know, like everyone knows like signature champions or power picks for certain players like Faker's LeBlanc and things like that. Klulov's Evelyn. Although what I technically named is what I like to dub the legacy champion.
Yeah.
So not necessarily like the best win rate or the power pick, but just the champion that this player is most well known for. Again, Clearlove has Eve, Faker has LeBlanc, Uzi has Vayne. When there's an important match, when they want to have fun, when Uzi's just going to go crazy, he will lock in the Vayne. So win or lose, I have a feeling we're going to get a good performance.
Damn right we are, but it's going to be really difficult. Of course, historically, Vayne has been considered a pick that works okay against Lucian, considering the fact that you can tumble out of the way of the Piercing Light, deny a lot of that
She's
damage.
considered a counter.
Yeah. I still just don't believe that that necessarily works, just because you're so weak in the early stages of the game, and that's where Lucian is so strong, irrespective of hitting that piercing line.
Well, the thing is initial back you will be weaker, but the thing that people often underestimate with Vayne is that her level 6, because of the free stats that she gets on Final Hour, you effectively get a free BF sword while you're itemizing towards attack speed. So at level 6, Vayne is pretty freaking strong and will just run at you and can kill you quite easily within the duration of her ultimate. Not
to mention the fact that the Night Stalker is going to be doubled as far as that power is concerned with the movement speed against fleeing foes. So we'll see exactly whether he's going to be able to utilize that one effectively, but definitely Gauntlet thrown. Like, if there's anything here that you can say, it's the fact that Qiao have said, this is the final game, theoretically. We are backs against the wall. Let's pull everything out and see if we can take a win. And we'll see whether, you know, Pekko and the Lissandra is going to be able to make it happen. Can definitely be very useful, irrespective of how the laning phase goes. And look, I'm really excited to see how this one's going to go, because if Qiao are going to win a game, it's going to be with these champions, and I'm really excited to see how it goes.
And it's not even just Uzi's Vayne, it's also the fact that Swift got Nidalee. This champion has effectively been permabanned away from him throughout the entirety of the LPL season. We talked about with the adjustment of Kindred being banned, would Team WE leave both Nidalee and Graves open and prioritize at least one of these power picks? The answer was yes, but now we finally get the Swift versus Condi 1v1 Nidalee versus Graves.
Yeah, and this is a power matchup, and it was your key matchup as well moving into this game, and we'll see whether Condi, his third game on the Graves, definitely is one of these points that we look at and say, look, Condi has been fantastic in all three of these games, the first two of these games, and we'll see whether it is going to be that Graves pickup that's going to give it to him.
No, completely agree. We'll see if we also get standard lanes, because it has been an effective lane swap both times, so isolating, which if Uzi's on Vayne, he's not going to mind that at all. Like you said, Vayne doesn't have necessarily the best early lane phase, really dependent on her post-level 6 or having that ultimate available, so...
Yeah, that's exactly right. We are onto the Rift, though, ladies and gentlemen, as it, of course, was GA picking up the LeBlanc as the final pick for WE, one that we haven't quite spoke about yet. When Uzi locks in Vayne, you generally just want to have a chat about it for quite some time. But it is going to be the LeBlanc versus another control mage, but one that could possibly deal with her a little bit better. Circle of Frost able to pin her down just for a little bit, allow you to get a bit of damage off. But Mystic now mucking around with Qiao and more.
Pekko has Ignite.
Oh god, what a beast.
The thing about Lissandra is that she synergizes so well with double teleport, just because she has phenomenal wave clear, and then when she teleports into a lane, she can immediately offer hard CC. And setup damage. But he's just, nope, Ignite.
Yeah, he's like, I want to kill you, Qiao. This is now my time to prove myself as the mid laner that we need.
But it will be an initiated lane swap again, so we're dodging standard lanes. The isolated lane for Vayne.
Yeah, definitely a good idea. Make sure that you can get to that level 6 freely, and we'll see whether they actually switch back into that lane swap and make use of, like you said, the final hour, the fact that you get that extra statistical advantage up in any matchup. As Peko answers the trade. Real exciting stuff here.
That's a highlight for you?
Damn right it is.
Okay. Excellent.
But it is a corrupting potion here from GA as well, so to have a little bit more sustained in the lane.
Junglers actually starting on the weak sides of the map for both instances as well. So we'll see how this adjusts the early game pass. On 6.6, Rusty talks about this a lot. Nidalee has the fastest clear speed of any jungler ever at any time.
Times a billion.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
It certainly is. Uzi level 1, he's able to shove out 957. Might make his jungle time a little bit more difficult with slightly less health, but probably not going to worry about it too much, as now Peko has a lot of minions to clear up. They're all prepared for him quite nicely as well. As GA level 2. Very comfortable, and we'll see whether this is going to be another phenomenal performance out of the LeBlanc player. So WE, I mean, we spoke about Qiao feeling very comfortable right now, but WE have a lot of power picks here. I mean, the Poppy, the LeBlanc, even Mystic on the Lucian, plus Condi on the Graves. This is sort of comfort versus comfort, so both of these teams unlocked in game number 3.
Comfort versus comfort, as long as we're not looking at this mid lane. Again, Peko's champion pool, 3 different champions for all 3 games. But last time around, pretty much both games back-to-back, Qiao has just been able to feed off of the inexperienced mid laner and snowball from there.
Peko actually eating that QW combo here from GA, but he's eating through his mana pool. See whether Peko is going to be able to find some respite, of course, being helped out by that passive. But WE now stacking up, taking out this first outer turret. Vayne with a little bit less AD. Gonna struggle a little bit on that one, but...
Well, she's also competing against the likes of the double tap. Oh, flash!
Yeah, there's the flash forward as Peko. One more auto attack will do it. There it is. First blood goes down as Swift is actually looking for this, but the decoy comes in, and GA is going to survive. Swift actually having to deal with Condi now, having to flash out of the way. I could have sworn that Condi was going to flash after him there.
He would be competing against a Primal Surge as well.
Well, yeah, so it was smart, but
yes,
blood rush to the head, something that Condi's known for in the early stages.
Great play from Qiao, also gets his life out of that one, dodging back into the creep wave to dodge, to avoid Swift's spear.
Yeah.
But both towers will fall into the side lanes. Uzi being a primary benefactor there, getting the last hit, so taking a bit of that extra gold.
Yeah, and actually 27 to 23, so already a little bit further ahead, and we'll see whether they match lanes now, trying to get past that sort of 1-2 mark. Get themselves back to a point of power. There's very similar items picked up here, as Uzi is going to grab an extra dagger. Of course, Blade of the Ruined King, his item of choice first up.
Check out what Maokai picked up.
Yeah, he got that last time around as well, as Peko looking to head out of the way, but the chains land. Qiao just knows exactly what's going on here. Getting as much out as possible, but does take a turret shot. But this power, this is unrelenting. He also has a Dark Seal. So, you know, there's one per team right now. The synergy, for multiple reasons, is fantastic.
This game's going to be nuts.
It is.
I can already tell.
It's already going a little bit insane here as Peko down to about 350 health. Answering back, does still have a fair bit of farm, but first blood for a LeBlanc. I can feel the bad news in the air.
Look at Condi sitting in the wings as well. They're waiting for Swift. It's going to be the 2v2.
Yeah, Swift, of course, making his way in. GA fostering aggressively, and it's all going to be about who can land the CC, who can get the extra damage. But Swift is going to head back. Oh, actually deciding to turn back around. Peko's like, no, you stay. Stay, kitty cat. But Condi's actually going to head back. This could be an opportunity for Qiao to make something happen.
It's because Peko's been utilizing his potion very well. He's got a lot of, he's recouped a lot of this health. We are also getting closer to that level 6. Swift's still hanging around in the area, but now Condi looking bottom.
Yeah, the Unbreakable goes down, but there's the headbutt. Back onto 0. Condi is going to head in. And Uzi does have to be so careful. There are the concussive blows. Level 4 on the Qiao, not going to be able to use that Unbreakable Will, but Mystic probably shouldn't have taken a turret shot. Silver Bolt's really going to do some work.
And that's kind of the primary counter here for Vayne against Lucian, especially with the adjustments to Lucian's range so long ago.
Yeah.
Vayne actually had the superior matchup there, but being able to tumble out of the Piercing Light and then immediately trade back on that with the Silver Bolts.
Well, you can see definitely paying dividends there, but WE setting themselves up underneath this turret. Condi, a lot of extra damage there as they whittle it down to about half health. Qiao do make their way back in, but miss out on a little bit of the experience.
Really respecting the possibility of a teleport gank and pulling Swift over to shadow on top of them and give them a lot of their confidence back.
Yeah, opening some room there in the mid lane for GA at the same time, unfortunately, though. So Peko will need to play a little bit more carefully, especially now that that Mimic has been built up. So the Q-R combination, very safe. Pretty easy there from GA as well, as he's just taking that health bar down slowly but surely. No regeneration available, apart from the ultimate if he self-casts it.
Condi could be caught out by Swift and more here, though.
Yeah, level disadvantage here from Condi.
Nidalee's got 10 CS, currently tied with the highest level in the game.
Yeah, Nidalee just pretty fast with the ultimate. And despite First Blood going to WE, it's 700 gold the lead.
And a lot of that's in the jungle.
Yeah. And you know, it's something that Nidalee is known to do, as the Claw is going to go over Peko, just scouting things out. G8 makes it back in. In fact, used his ultimate in order to get back to the lane.
He wants to back right now, so I think it's more about just clearing out these waves as safely and quickly as possible, and then backing towards your power spike.
Wow.
The BM.
Actually, that's the Circle of Frost going down. Xie underneath the turret, and he gets outplayed by Peko. Just some overconfidence by the mid laner.
The BM. There's no reason. Xie, what are you thinking? That's 3 times in this series that you've just thrown away. Yeah. It's not worth it, man.
Oh, God.
It gets better.
Well, GA decided to build a Negatron cloak and then thought, that's stupid. And there's the blasting
He
one.
had so much gold for the...
Yeah.
That's so strange.
It's a real waste of life. But Mystic, now with a bit of a freeze here towards the bottom side of the map. Zero going to head back to base, see what he's going to pick up for himself. Mystic now just trying to claw back that disadvantage in CS. He's going to be able to do so very effectively here.
Okay, maybe the mentality was, I need to go back, but I don't want to waste time on my blue buff, as good dodge.
Yeah, but 957's making his way over. The pounce back off cooldown switch is going to spend some time with Harold.
Mystic, or excuse me, Xie, gets blue buff.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to waste time in base with his blue buff. So he's like, if I give it to Lissandra, I'll get my back as well as be able to refresh the cooldown when I get back into the lane.
Ah.
I think that was the...
That's going to involve killing him. And he now has a catalyst. What are they? Okay, so it's sort of like the top lane Lissandra variant here in the mid lane. Often we see the old Abyssal Scepter into the likes of Zonya's Hourglass.
Here comes a
dive.
dive.
But yeah, you're right. Peko looking for it. Claw of Doom comes in, but he doesn't follow up. WE creating enough distance right now. Zero going to go straight in there. Gets out of the way of the pulverizers more. They'll have to wait for that one to come up. But half health on this turret now. 957 used the ultimate already. They don't have a lot of disengage from this, but they're running out of minions on the side of QG. Xie is going to make his way through.
4v5. Check out Lucian. Mystic is on completely the other side of the map, so with the Rift Herald, QG are going to be able to siege this down, but what are they trading? Their tower for some free farm and experience on Lucian.
Yeah, we'll see whether it's going to be enough here. Of course, Rift Herald did help out. QG now just moving as a unit. Condi's going to make his way over. Uzi in trouble. But Mimic Distortion not going to be quite enough. He's burning to death here. 200 health now remaining on the Vayne.
They do buy enough time for Mystic with this tower. He could look to even up the trade between objectives.
Will definitely, because this tower is not on high health. So, answering outers. And WE, despite the fact that it looked bad in that 4v5, no one dies, and they answer.
Was able to be maintained because, again, Team WE know exactly when not to fight. So they made sure that QG just couldn't get the engagement on them with the numbers advantage.
Yeah, Mystic, though, now ahead by the amount that he was falling behind last time around, 15 CS. So the Lucian well and truly back up in this one. BF Sword will be completed. We'll see whether he can grab himself a hammer at the same time. And that spike in power is going to be strong. Initiate. Circle of Frost not going to be able to lock him down this time. He's not under a tower as well, which is handy.
More importantly, the blue buff fell off, so Xie's master plan has been foiled again.
Well done, Peko.
The true mid laner.
Yeah, precisely. Actually has the level advantage here at the same time. So, nice work nullifying this LeBlanc.
I mean, I feel like you put that on the resume. Beat Xie in lane.
Yeah, damn right. Head in farm, 20 CS.
Dragon being set up here, though, for Zero, placing down his vision. I mean, check out the river control that Team WE have acquired.
Well, they're just vision control throughout this series has been honestly fantastic, as now Swift is going to make his way in. 957 has to flash, but doesn't quite have enough, and he's going to miss the ultimate there as well. So Swift doesn't quite find the spear as 957's running away. The flash comes in, he gets slowed down by the arcane smashes. There's a twisted advance, and Swift is going to be able to lock down the kill in the end. Nicely played from QG, and we'll see whether WE can answer. But Mystic actually going to get engaged on here by Moore. Concussive blows goes down. He's only level 5. Flashes out of the way as Final Hour has now been popped. Uzi's looking for it here as the heal comes in. Oh, he's in trouble. Piercing Light picks it up, and WE outplay the bottom lane.
And that was the big thing, is the fact that Alistar is a level down, didn't have the Unbreakable available, but meanwhile mid.
Yep, Frozen Tomb comes in. Xie in so much trouble. Swift is going to swipe him off the rift. And the LeBlanc's going to fall. WE might be able to answer here with a lot of turret damage. But look, that is 2 lanes falling for WE and only 1 for QG.
And they're also perhaps getting collapsed on. WE do have the inside track, so able to shadow on top of Mystic, trying to get him out. But here comes Lissandra.
Yeah, Lissandra's coming in here as Mystic flashes forward, picks it up. Condi's actually going to grab it there. Very cheeky with the collateral damage of the teleport's coming in. Winter's Bite's going to tag Peko. Now 4 versus 3 here on the bottom side of the map. Uzi's closing in on the other side, but Mystic actually off on his own here. Dangerous maneuver as Uzi is going to close in. They managed to pick it up onto Mystic with the Condemner. Zero has to flash out over the top. Swift looking for it. Actually answers the flash now as well as Peko gets himself out of danger. 957 is trying to take down Swift, but can't follow the pounce. And in goes QG. This is the skirmishing that we're looking for. V picks up the kill, and now Condi, what are you doing? What are you doing?
He's waiting for Xie, who has walked from base, but it looks like everyone's going to back out of this, so...
Qiao?
Uncharacteristic from Team WE to get a little bit too bloodthirsty, and like you said, Qiao fighting in their element, these very scrappy, elongated 5v5s, 3v3s, but the primary benefactor was Uzi on Vayne.
Yeah, managed to pick up the kill onto Mystic there as well, which is so incredibly important. That Condemn working out as he made his way back into the fight. And look, WE, I liked it. The fact that they got their 4 members there, they were all grouped up there towards the bottom side of the map, and this is something that we've sort of spoken about in the past, but Mystic moving off on his own into that choke point, just devastating away from the rest of his team. I just have a feeling that if they were playing like their regular selves, all staying grouped up, able to play this one out, would have been a better story, as Moore and Uzi have to move out of the way from Condi. The rest of QG now moving towards the Herald as Xie is going to land the chains. Moore now level 6 though, which is very, very important. Does have the Unbreakable Will. He's just trampling his way around the jungle.
Will be an objective trade, however, between QG and Team WE. Dragon for Rift Herald.
Yeah, definitely good news. WE about 2,500 gold behind. A situation they're very used to, but this time the LeBlanc not in a powerful situation. Uzi doing well on the Vayne. Blade of the Ruin King completed. Now going for what looks like it should probably be something like a Phantom Dancer as item number 2. If I know anything about Uzi and the way he likes to play his Vayne. But first Dragon does fall to WE.
Very late Dragon as well.
Yeah, 15 minutes. One of the latest that we've seen.
Hasn't really been the priority between these two teams. They've most likely been trying to chase each other across map.
Yeah, very true.
We knew it was going to be a bloodthirsty game from all of the comfort champions across the board. Again, game, set, and match for Team WE to secure their 3rd place in their spring split for 2016.
Yeah, and more points there as well, moving towards Worlds than a 4th place finish would net them. Important here, especially for a team that is not used to being at the top end of the playoffs. WE, they made a late surge towards the end of last year.
They've had a bit of a slump
like
for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But congrats to the organization on rebuilding. It's no easy feat to live up to the dynasty and the expectations that this organization has built.
Oh, most definitely. Don't have any of those massive names on this WE roster anymore, but starting to make names for themselves. Zero, of course, being fantastic player in his own right. Sahorn Royal Club mostly, but still stepping into his own here. As Circle of Frost does go down, Condi decides not to do too much as Peko throws out the claw, but in goes Qiao one more time, lands the chains here as Mystic is going to find his way in. Frozen Tomb just going to be weighted here as more. He is able to get over the top. Mystic still playing aggressively, but gets nabbed by a spear. A lot of damage out of Swift as he pounces out of the way of the culling.
And Qiao continuing to punish Peko for his misuse of gap closers. We saw it when he picked up Lucian. Anytime he used the Relentless Pursuit too aggressively, Qiao was on top of him. And this time around with the Glacial Path.
Yeah, thankfully Peko with a bit of a better early game. Not just going to get murdered for the mistake.
He'll set his team behind him. But we do have some consolidating of resources up top from Team WE.
Yeah. QG are going to put themselves in a decent position though, as Moore is going to miss the Pulverize. Does still have the flash though if he wants to grab it on the next rotation of that cooldown. And Uzi just splitting by himself towards the bottom side of the map. We can see him on our screen right now, having the time of his life. This is what Uzi wants to do. Be away from his team. Anyone gets sent down there, he'll just kill him.
In a 1v1 scenario, unless he comes up against the likes of Qiao.
Yeah. I actually feel like he'd probably just try and kill Qiao as well.
Oh, he would definitely try, and he could have the potential to do so if Qiao doesn't position correctly to stun. Excuse me, a condemn.
Well, you know, condemn leads to a stun.
Yeah, especially when you're like in the mid lane and they condemn you into the top lane stun against the far wall.
Yeah.
Really like that ability. Seems really consistent on its, you know, distance traveled.
Yeah, totally. Standard stuff.
It's like a Bard Cosmic Binding. Between a Teemo Mushroom and a Bard Cosmic Binding hitbox, so where are we?
About 1 billion. But Moore actually not going to find the chain. Qiao pops the Thunderlords, half the health of the Qiao. Not exactly the type of support you really want to be deleting though. Unbreakable Will probably going to be able to keep him alive through most of it.
Yeah, but if you can burn that ultimate for, you know, a 16-second ultimate, I say more power to you, Qiao.
Still has that 16-second ultimate here as well as QG are moving 3 members into the mid lane. They're going to be backing the tree, looking to try and grab something extra. Sunfire Cape now completed. Oh, Qiao actually going to eat a spear, and Swift's Nidalee doing work. Look at this guy, about 25 CS in the lead. Rod of Ages done at 18 minutes, as well as the Runic Echoes, as well as the Lucidity Boots. Still
The highest level on the map, him and Peko, both level 12. From the jungle, that's a big deal. Compare that to Condi's level 10, in particular as we get closer to Smite battles.
Yeah, precisely. And Condi does have a Hex Drinker, which is a big deal against sort of the triple magic threats coming out. But WE, see whether they can have one of these miracle team fights once again. Use their heads, get the right fights, the ones that they're actually looking for. Peko actually going to get the Circle of Frost there under 0. Throws up the Unbreakable, but Moore does have to use his ult here as well. A little bit of an overly ambitious engagement out of QG, but not going to get punished too heavily as Swift is going to head over the top. Qiao in trouble as he's pouncing for it. Swift is going to get knocked out of here, but Qiao is eventually able to pick up the kill. What was that?
So aggressive and just not really communicated between multiple members of QG, not just Swift, but you were just talking about how Moore may be a little bit overzealous, forced to pop the Unbreakable, and then after Moore and Peko disengage clearly from the mid lane, Swift caught out on the side and deleted. And not only does he lose his life, but they also sacrifice their TP.
Yeah. And Qiao is able to pick up that kill as well, so Dark Seal getting stacked. Big news. See whether they are going to be able to make anything out of that. It was a needlessly large rod picked up from Qiao. Still has his flash available as Peko is going to head back over after picking up his blue buff. Clear out this mid lane of farm. Of course, that turret very, very healthy. Qiao now looking to try and answer on the bottom side of the map as Uzi was shoving that one out one more time. But you can see Mystic this time able to keep up very, very well, picking up what Uzi is delivering to him. But Vayne sort of dealing with this mid-game relative trough. He's absolutely fine. 2 items now completed. Static Shiv was what he decided to go with. Add a bit of wave clear into the build. I like it a lot.
I like Static Shiv.
Yeah.
I think that Phantom Dancer and both Static Shiv are in very healthy spots. I'm actually a big fan of Shiv on Vayne, just because, again, helping out with that wave clear in case Peko does decide to go down. We saw it in game 1 that Uzi and Peko were never really in the same lane, and Peko was actually a bit slow on rotation when they needed his primary wave clear. but also the fact that Vayne's going to stack Static Shiv very quickly due to her base movement speed and her passive.
Yeah. Well, Dragon is going to fall down here. V going to deliver a huge wave towards the top side of the map. V just going to hold it off the turret one more time. Definitely something that he does like to do on this Maokai. Not wasting too much time there at all. As whoa, there's the QR combo from Qiao. Heads back to his distortion there as well, and Peko says, can I have half my health bar back, please?
And that's really the scary thing for QG's comp. I like the fact that they got their comfort champions, you know. Uzi on the legacy pick of Vayne.
Yep.
Swift got his Nidalee, the champion that's pretty much been perma-banned from him all season long. But there are tools to deal with these champions, and it's called LeBlanc, and it's Xie's comfort pick.
Oh, there's the flash actually as the Frozen Tomb comes in. Uzi delivered a kill as he just does a drive-by. Final hour was, of course, popped, and QG going to transition this one into the outer turret in the mid lane. Just some sloppy play out of Mystic, you have to think, just because he knew that they were all there. There's definitely always an option. You flash and press R.
But much better communication with QG. They look a lot more organized when Uzi is involved with the plays. So notice, no longer off into these side lanes, farming up his own itemization, joins up with the team, and suddenly QG look a lot more collected.
Yeah, well, there's the wallbang actually onto Uzi in a whole host of trouble. Has to use the flash in order to get out, but the flash from 957 is going to follow up, and Uzi's going to be dead. This is massive here for WE as they're trying to get even more out of it. Condi over the top here as well. Xie is going to distort his way into range. V is going to get caught out of position, but he's pretty tanky. No mana though, and Xie going to grab himself another kill, and once again, this mid-game, WE have just found some way of getting some picks.
It was the caster curse. I was just trying to compliment QG of being more collected, more focused when Uzi is grouped up with them. But they try a very aggressive walk around behind top tier tower and are picked out.
Yeah, Mora's going to be able to get some vision in here, and now it's Swift's time to shine. 5 members in the pit, and WE are committing. It's below half health now as well. QG with 3 members now remaining. As Xie does make his way in. He gets exhausted though. Back to his distortion as Swift out of the pit now as well. Condi will need to try and get this one, but Xie's going to fall. Peko's going to fall down as well. Mystic's going to be able to grab the Baron. Swift is going to go. It's a triple kill already if you include the Baron. 957 able to pick up the last one, and Uzi and B, they get themselves back in, but my God, WE, they make it happen.
That was almost disaster for Team WE, though. I want to point out that the smite was actually missed. Again, Swift is, well, he was
dead, basically.
He was the higher level with the completion of the Baron. It did allow Condi to level up, so he had the stronger smite after the fight. But the fact of the matter is Swift could have very easily gotten that Baron. It was Mystic that picked it up with the Lucian because Condi fumbled the smite.
Yeah. But in the end, WE are the ones that benefit. They have taken the gold lead now for the first time, and they have been able to do this. It just seems turning around a game. Around halfway through, 20 minutes. Seems to be when they can make it happen, and it's decisive calls, decisive plays. And despite the fact that, you know, that Baron was risky, and we are not disputing that.
It was a good job from their...
It was all 5 members making the decision.
Yeah, the line of scrimmage, as they're setting up a trap here, like you said, all 5 members making a decision to stand in this pink brush.
Oh, exploded. That is mincemeat on your screen right now as the Qiao just erupts. I've seen this. I think that there's a thing you can do in Vietnam, which is very similar, using a rocket launcher. Never mind. WE pushing up the mid lane. Peko has his claw blocked. Zero's unbreakable. We'll see what more WE can grab out of this one. They've got a lot of turret damage, actually, if they can actually get up to it. But
and they've also got
relatively short range.
Control of all of the side lanes. Something that separates Team WE from a lot of the other LPL teams, again, is not only their understanding of when not to fight, but also their side wave control is quite mature.
Yeah.
For an LPL team, and making sure that they constantly have multiple pressure points to go around and minimize their losses when they do lose team fights, because teams have to reset maps around them.
All right, now inner turret is going to fall down. Top lane going to be the next point of focus here, as the inner did fall on the bottom side. Swift actually going to get caught out of position. Concussive blows is going to be there as well, as Uzi does throw down the final hour, eats a bit of the culling, and Swift is going to take the rest of it on purpose, which is quite strange. But WE aren't able to grab any kills. We will be able to get this blue buff though, and Xie walks over some wards. That is not going to indicate that he's going to get picked out. It indicates that everyone gets the hell out of there, because the LeBlanc is terrifying. Now Luden's Echo, another needlessly large rod. He's foregone any pickup of the cooldown reduction. because he knew he wasn't as far ahead as he wanted to be. He just wants to have as much damage as possible. Whoa, Swift.
Speaking of damage.
Yeah, speaking of which, this is how it works. As Peko used the claw, but unable to get himself in. Qiao takes a lot of damage. Touches in a turret, is going to fall down. That is 3 turrets for the Baron, and a 5,000 gold lead out of nowhere for WE. They clawed back what was a 4,000 lead for QG earlier on. And look, if my maths is correct, that's something like a 9,000 gold swing.
It's pretty massive here and a great Baron power play. A lot of it on the back of Qiao, who's opening up so much space for his team. Like you said, this LeBlanc has really taken off.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to 957 on this Poppy and how key he's been in multiple games throughout this series, particularly around the Baron pit. Yes, it was a risky play. They failed the smite, but they got it anyway. But 957 making the executive choice to zone out Swift for as long as he could.
It's beautiful. Can you feel the pride of Spawn somewhere in this office?
957 for me has always sat between like mediocre and good. And now this series he's playing excellent.
He certainly is. Talking about the, you know, the S tiers, things like that. Stepping up. See where the WE.
Especially as a complete, I don't want to say random, but solo queue player, just coming out of nowhere.
Qiao as well was another one of these, top of Chinese
top
solo
of
queue last year. Both of them really coming into their own, finding their own identities here as individual players and being played around by WE as Zero. Poked his head in, uses the stand behind me to get back to his team, but QG grouping up as 5. They do want to fight for this.
Qiao is behind enemy lines. He's now been pinged out, but he's looking for Uzi. That's all he wants is that Vayne.
Well, the Blade of the Ruined King comes in. There's the Condemn against the wall. Qiao is going to be invisible for now, but it is going to be Uzi picking up the kill. Condi grabs himself the Dragon. Swift tried to get it, but gets out of the way. And there's a massive pulverized QG. This could be the team fight that they're looking for as Mystic explodes on the back end. It's a double kill for Uzi as he's flashed over the top. Zero now as well. Silverbolt's doing so much work, and Uzi grabs a triple. QG, welcome back into this game.
His old duo partner flashes the wall and chases him down. That's got to feel sweet for Uzi. Get some revenge. But a great play, and really it was Mystic being out of position. Gets caught out. Uzi finds a great condemn into the wall and just pops LeBlanc instantly.
Yeah, heads up play, and Peko and Uzi don't need to develop much synergy, these two, but they actually worked very well there. Is that magic helping V as well, as they are able to take down this inner turret, closing that gold gap even further here on the side of QG. It's a very different game number 3 right now. Only 1,000 gold between the teams at 30 minutes approximately. A massive deal for QG, as they were able to get past that first hurdle that WE has really sort of
But look where the gold is allocated.
In last time.
So across the board on Team WE, pretty much every single member has some kills to their name. They're fairly all even. Check out QG.
It's Uzi.
Yep. It is entirely Uzi. Which again, if you go back to the play that Mystic was trying to make behind that Dragon Pit, if he had managed to kill the Vayne, that's game.
The crazy thing is, though, is that everyone is so incredibly close, apart from Uzi. He's 100% of that gold lead. Otherwise, everyone else is basically even. Even Condi has been the benefactor of like a few of these last fights and has actually picked himself up a bunch of extra farm. He's actually ahead in gold against Swift, who was dominating him earlier on in this game. So we'll see how they're going to translate that moving forward. It is still 1.2k. Nothing at all. As WE, we'll see whether they can use their brains. This is what has been so important about this team, to set up what they need. 957 has the teleport. V does not.
They've also got the side wave control right now, as here comes the engage.
Yeah, full hard engage as well. Zero is going to get a massive knock up with that Glacial Prison. Qiao actually jumps his way in there as 957 teleports through. Uzi's going to get stunned against the wall. Mystic picks up the kill as the ultimate's going to knock Swift into the air. He's now out of the fight as Peko uses the Zhonya's, but he can't quite create enough space as Qiao gets out of the top. The double kill comes in as Swift falls down as well. And WE, we were talking about orchestrating the fight. It started off as a 4v5. They finishes off it as a 5v5 and get 3 kills for nothing.
And congratulations, Team WE, because they're going to perhaps end the game here, for sure get an in-hit, walk back to the Baron, but it was just beautiful execution of all the tools they have to deal with that Vayne. Again, Mystic flying past the back line, lands on top of Vayne trying to blow up, followed up by 957, heroic charging forward, finding the stun that actually kills the Vayne.
Yeah, 12 seconds here as well on Uzi, who's watching his Nexus turrets evaporate. The rest of QG just trying to create as much of a nuisance of themselves as possible, but Mystic is going to be able to take down these turrets. The Nexus is going to be next on the menu, and WE, a 3-0 sweep in this best of 5, secure themselves the 3rd place. A bunch more points heading into Worlds. Of course, not going to be going to MSI, but this team, so impressive in the last few matches that we've seen them, and they have a bright future as this squad.
Yeah, completely agree. They looked methodical, organized, calculated, together.
Yeah.
Everything that we wanted from this team, I mean, pretty much since this is the standard that this organization has set up over years, and they're finally starting to reach back to those expectations and that lofty ceiling. So great job, and congratulations, World Elite.
Yeah, incredibly well played, and we'll see exactly what is going to happen next here for this team as they are preparing for LPL Split 2 for 2016. I highly doubt there will be any changes as far as roster is concerned, but I really hope they continue this drive because they look so driven in these playoffs. This is a team that had something to prove, and hopefully they hold on to that moving in.
No, I, again, completely agree. It comes down to where does that ceiling actually sit right now?
Yeah.
Their macro play is fairly impressive for the LPL, probably one of the more advanced ones. I think they need to clean up a couple of different elements, some individual decision-making. If we think back to Qiao, yes, he had a fantastic series, but he also had some fairly awkward plays where he just kind of threw away leads against a more punishing and more experienced mid laner. He may not get the bounce back on that as quickly. So just clean up some individual decision-making, and they're a top-tier team in the LPL. Yeah,
they most certainly are, and we'll see whether they are going to be able to continue to move forward. But ladies and gentlemen, that means that 3rd place is going to go to WE. 4th place is now for Qiao, but places 1 and 2 are yet to be decided. Of course, in a few days' time, it is going to be the grand final of the LPL, and that will be RNG taking on EDG. And after this match, it's actually quite interesting because WE played fantastically. RNG managed to take them in that 5-game series. How do we think that RNG stacks up against EDG that have been looking ludicrously strong?
I already talked about this a little bit yesterday after the forfeit from QG against EDG, and then I feel like it's just a stylistic nightmare for RNG, in all honesty. Just because they try to get so much snowball around early game pressure and their ability to collapse and skirmish over deep vision, which isn't... I mean, they've evolved a lot more from that type of strategy, but it's still a very heavy skirmish team, which means that they're very focused on getting individual lane matchups or stronger lane matchups. But that's actually exactly what EDG do. Yeah, that's exactly right. But it is going to be the 3-0 sweep, as you could see there from WE. We are going to have a look at the standings. As we saw before, this was the promotion tournament. HYG making their way back in. EPA doing the same. OMG very early on secured their place back in the LPL. And EDE. Edward Esports.
Edward Esports, of course.
This will be our 4 teams joining the LPL
Probably
for
not
summer.
Called that as they make their way in, because, of course, it is EDG's sister team. Unfortunately, we wave goodbye to M3, who fell down to HYG very early on as well. But otherwise, LPL looking relatively similar. Here's the playoffs, though. And as we just saw, WE secured the 3rd place position, and it all comes down to RNG versus EDG. We'll see how it is going to work out, of course, in a few days' time. 23rd of April will be EDG taking on Royal Never Give Up in the best of 5 series for the grand final. And
a trip to MSI.
Exactly right. That is what's on the line. EDG, the MSI team, of course, managed to take it out last year. 2015, looking to try and go back and defend their title. Unfortunately, didn't exactly have the best showing at Worlds, but the middle of the year, that's where EDG shine, and they're looking fantastic moving in there now.
We were talking about stylistic differences and the combination of RNG versus EDG, and we talked about how EDG also like to prioritize the stronger lane matchups, which is exactly what RNG try to do. But the other thing and the big key difference is the ability to 5v5. RNG cannot 5v5.
No, we saw that.
Yeah, they're decent at it when they get flanking plays. Looper is incredibly dependent on being able to utilize his teleport. And when he has a flanking play, he executes it really well. But a straight setting your line of scrimmage and then running head or front to back team composition, RNG have actually really struggled with that. Whereas on the other side, EDG are looking like that same dominant 5v5 team that we've always expected from them. So I feel like it's going to be a very explosive match just because these two teams like to do similar things, but EDG are just better at everything that RNG like to do.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that, yeah, exactly right. In the very early stages of the match, EDG often do ridiculous things, what with Twisted Fate, the likes of Nocturne, stuff like that. But the MVP is, of course, going to be 957. He's deserved this multiple games
He deserved
in a row,
it
I
last
think.
game.
Yeah, damn right.
So
I feel like it's good that he's finally getting one.
Better late than never. He's had phenomenal Poppy performance. We saw the Poppy priority over the Echo multiple times, and we talked about this a bit in draft, that it's just this idea against the likes of QG who want to 5v5 all the time, have a lot of experience with that a Poppy ultimate can mean so much because it immediately turns it into a 4v5, a 3v5, depending on how key you are with that ultimate, and 957 was so on point.
Yeah, and he got it over and over again there as well. I mean, the Lissandra was denied away from him, but it seems to be these sort of like heavy skirmishing, like tanking plays that 957 is able to really get ahead on. Game number 2 was just ridiculous because he had all armor, but look at him. This wallbang onto Uzi, if the slideshow will stop. There it is. Smacks him up, and he's just dead.
Yeah. Again, it was the fact that their team composition had the perfect amount of tools to deal with Uzi, and that was the big issue, is that the allocation of gold.
Yeah.
Because Uzi was going to be a primary carry. Again, you have Pekka, who's going to be a rotation for the mid lane. He's not going to be a primary carry. He's just...
No.
They tried it on the Lucian. It didn't work. He had the Lissandra. He was effectively there to stand next to Uzi and try to make sure that they didn't jump on him, which in that last team fight, Mystic flies in. Lissandra nails him with the ultimate, but then it just leaves room because the cooldown's down for the heroic charge to come in.
Yeah.
So again, the issue, if all of your gold is on one member and you're against a composition that can dive backlines so effectively with Poppy and LeBlanc, chances are you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, and then there's also the disrespect that came out of Uzi just a little bit there as well. Decided to go for the third item, Infinity Edge. Grabbed himself a Spectre's Cowl very, very late in the game, but no QSS. We often see third item, second item QSS for Uzi's vein, often when he's taking these things very, very seriously.
I mean...
And when you've got something like that to get out of, like, that's a big deal.
Frankly, I don't blame Uzi, really, for not picking up the QSS. I mean, you are correct that it's obviously going to help, but at the same time, Uzi, knowing that you have the pressure that you have to carry, I don't blame him for looking for more damage and just trying to put everything on his back.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for our third place match. Make sure you are there next week for the grand final. It's going to be coming to you live from Shanghai as well. So very excited to bring that to you on the 23rd of April. So ladies and gentlemen, that'll do it from us. Big thanks from myself, Prosper, and our whole production team. We'll see you next week.